Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar today. My name's Vanessa and it's a pleasure to be with you. Today, as you can see, the topic of our webinar is Let's Make Learning English Easy Peasy for Every Child, and we're going to have a subtopic of using picture books to spice up the curriculum. So today, Claudia and I have prepared this webinar especially for you, and we hope that you will enjoy it as much as we have enjoyed preparing it. So, are you ready to get going? Can you please type a hi and a yes in the chat box? So let's see. Hi, Sylvia. Good to see you. I also want to say a big hello to everyone, especially to Pedro, who's now been with us for 4 webinars in a row. And another very big hello to my co-author, Claudia, who's also watching us from Porto. So hello, everyone. Right. Hi, Susanna. Hi, Anna Paula. Are you ready to get going today? Let's have a look. Ariana is telling me yes. Fernanda's on fire, and so is Carla. Well, in that case, your wish is my command. I'll be with you for the next hour, and I've organized the webinar according to 3 main objectives. So our first objective today is, oh dear, I think I've been pressing on too many slides. Sorry about that. So our first objective is to discuss the power of picture books. And I think that we all use picture books in the classroom. And I can see you nodding from afar. Then we are actually going to have the little Lushu of hearing a story at the end of the day. Can you think of a better way to end the day? And finally, we're going to round off the webinar with some storytelling activities, which will help us develop the perfil and students' competencies. A big hello to Olga, who's just arrived. Pedro, you can't hear? Are you sure that your sound is on? Yeah, Carla, I love stories too. Well, Pedro, if you can't hear, don't worry. The webinar is being recorded, so you can listen to it later on. Right, so let's get going. Now, before we start, I'd like you to have a look at my emotion wheel. And my emotion wheel is called the feel wheel. And I'd like to ask you to just type in the chat box how you are feeling today. So I have a few adjectives on the screen, but you can choose any. Oh, Pedro, I'm glad to see that it's working for you now. Hi, Sylvia. Good to see that you're hearing. Right, back to my feel wheel. Could you please type in the chat box, how are you feeling today and why are you feeling like that? In my case, I'm feeling very excited because I get to spend the next hour telling my friends a wonderful story. So how could I not feel excited? Daniela, are you feeling tired? What made you feel tired today? Maria Inês is feeling happy. Inês, why are you happy? Oh dear, Natty, are you feeling sick? What's wrong? Is your tummy terrible? Pedro's feeling tired but happy. My father's feeling great because she's going to learn new things. That's the way to go. Olga's feeling excited because she is with us today. Lately, I've been starting my lessons with the feel wheel just to see how the kids are and what their learning readiness is. And you will, of course, agree with me, I think, that emotional intelligence is a big part of what, or it plays a very big role in what goes on in the classroom. So it's a good idea to have a look at it. Now, I've done some research into it and just chosen a quote or two to help you think about this. And Slavare and Mayer define emotional intelligence as a set of skills, and they speak about emotions that guide our thinking. In other words, there's a link between what we're feeling and what we're actually thinking. And so they defend that emotional intelligence and all our emotions impact our learning to the extent that they affect the relationships that are going on in the classroom. And ultimately, this is going to have an impact both in our physical and in our mental health. So this is a big thing, and perhaps we can make a little room for it in the classroom. Now, the idea is to help teach our young learners how to manage their emotions effectively. Because if they are able to manage their emotions, then we'll be opening their learning gates into learning, and we'll be able to have a more empathetic classroom. And I think we've all seen students say things like, eu não quero sentar ao lado dele, que não gosto, right? So this is a student who's showing a lack of emotional empathy, and these kinds of things need to be addressed into the classroom, just as we need to address things that affect us all. Some days are just moody blue days, and this happens. So how do we react when this is happening to us, right? Anna is saying that she uses emojis. Anna, I might just steal that thought from you, as you'll see in a few minutes. Right, so it's good to see that many of you are excited. Now, let me just turn this slide back before you copy my answers, and I'd like to just check that everybody is wide and awake. And so I'm going to ask you, well, firstly, do you use picture books in your classrooms? And the second follow-up question is going to be, if so, why? What do picture books have that is so fascinating? So let's have a look. Hi, Christine. Glad to have you with us. Hi, Edgar. Thank you for coming today. Right, so remember my questions. Please type away in the chat box. Firstly, do you use picture books? And then what about them makes you want to use them so much? Let's have a look. So Fernanda has got us going, saying that she uses them. Anna is saying, of course, such a valuable tool. How could we not use it? Anna Raquel agrees. Now, the question is going to be, why? What do picture books have that make using them such a marvelous, enticing tool? Right, so Philippe is saying the pictures and the colors, right? Have you noticed how the pictures tell the story, and so do the colors as well? Olga is saying that they are very engaging. And Sandra is rounding this up by saying that, well, it all comes down to the children who absolutely love them. Isabel, I agree, they do encourage conversation. And I also agree that, well, they tell a good story and that they engage our students. Mafalda is explaining that they expand vocabulary, and not only expanding vocabulary, but also giving us that vocabulary in context, as we were speaking about in yesterday's webinar. Right, I think that after all these fantastic comments, I really have nothing else to add, except my own list. Now, you'll see that they aren't very original because you've come up with them before. So my first reason really is that picture books, well, they engage children for all the reasons that you mentioned, because of the story, because of the text, because of the pictures, because of the curiosity, just because of the love of hearing stories. But at the same time, they're able to develop language skills and the essential skills. And in today's webinar, we'll be having a look to see at how the story that Claudia and I have chosen is able to actually develop these wonderful creativity and critical thinking skills along with this emotional intelligence. Then they also provide a lovely natural learning context, which you mentioned as well in the chat box. And nobody mentioned this, but this for me is important as well. They complement the course book. So it's you may love your course book, and I'm sure that we all do, especially if it rocks in the classroom with the students. But at the same time, sometimes we just need a different lesson, if you know what I mean. So sometimes that one lesson, which is the break from the course book, makes it all worthwhile to go back there. Right, now I'd like to share a quote that Sandy Morin has written about picture books, and I think that this really summarizes it all. Because as you can see, Sandy is reminding us that with a picture book, the potential for learning language is astronomical. And the reason is that it actively engages the students because there is a relationship between what's going on in the book and the way that the student or the reader is bringing that book to life, right? So Sandra is saying that she actually puts the book in the classroom and lets students read it again and again. In other words, bringing it to life whenever they feel the need. And that's a great idea, Sandra. Thank you for sharing. Now, if we are speaking about using picture books to teach students, then we need to speak about what is it that the apprendizages tell us to teach. And I'm sure that you are familiar with that long list of topics which I have on my screen. So as you can see, there are quite a few topics. And one of the reasons that I love picture books is that they cross the topics. So you get a little bit of colors and a little bit of numbers and a little bit of another topic all rolled into one, which means that I can introduce my new vocabulary, but I can also revise vocabulary that I've pre-taught and would like to keep them active in their minds, right? Sandra's also saying that she gives her students 10 minutes of free time for reading. Isn't that a wonderful way to start the day, Sandra? Or a lovely way to quieten them down after a big stirring activity. So it's a wonderful settler activity. Right, now we also know that the perfil de Luno asks us to mix competencies. And one of the competencies that it asks us to mix is visual literacy. In other words, training students to learn with their eyes. And for all the reasons that you've already said, the colors in the picture book and the fact that it develops critical thinking is a fantastic way to develop this, one of these topics in the perfil or the skills in the perfil de Luno in a very nice, stress-free way that the students love. Right, so this takes care of our first objective, discussing the power of picture books. So this means that we can move on to our second objective, which is the highlight of my day today, telling a story. Would you please type in the chat box if you trust me enough to be your teacher for the day and to read you a story? Well, I should say sort of read and tell. I'm never able to just read a story. Hi, George. Thank you for joining us. I've just seen you come into the chat room today. Let's have a look and see. Would you like me to be your teacher and read you a story? Vera, I love those capital letters shouting, of course. Now, if I needed energy, you've just given me a pile. Thank you for that. Cecilia, thank you for trusting me. Elizabeth is saying, I trust you completely. So nice to see you again, Elizabeth. Alexandra is saying, ready, steady, go. Vera gives me a nice smile. So in that case, let's move on to our story. Now, before we actually look at my story, I'd like to just share some of the tips that I usually use. And you will see that throughout the story, I'm going to invite you to do a number of gestures, perhaps to do some singing and chanting. I might ask you questions, or I might even personalize the story and ask you to give me your opinion on how you would react if that happened to you. So these are my 4 little truquezinhos that I'm going to be using today to make sure that my students, or should I say dear colleagues, are wide and awake and that you're following the story and understanding. Because if we don't do this in the classroom, you know that the meninos will find something else to do, right? So it is necessary to keep them on their toes. Right, so this means that we are ready for a story. Glory, glory, it's time for a story. Now, could you please look at the cover of my book and tell me what the title is? Could you please type in the chat box? What is the title of today's story? Can anybody see? Katerina, don't worry, the webinar has been recorded, so you can watch the beginning before, but we've just done a insy-wincy, teeny-weeny bit of theory, nothing major. Oh, Filipa, Katarina, Elizabeth, and Alexandra are telling me red. Now, is there anything that's just a little esquisito about this title? Can you look very carefully? Let's put on our critical thinking glasses. You ready to grab your critical thinking glasses with me? Right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Put on your critical thinking glasses. Take a closer look. Something esquisito. That's right, Susanna and Carla. The colours. So it says red, but in actual fact, the cover is... Can anybody finish my sentence by typing in the chat box? That's it, Mafalda. The cover is blue. Esquisito, right? Why do you think that this is happening? Can anyone predict why the title says red, but then the cover is blue? Does anybody have some explanation for this? Let's have a look. It is just saying blue as well, but the question is why it is? What is happening here? Does anybody think they might have, well, perhaps a version to why this happened? Right, let's have a look and think. Oh, Carla, could the crayon be red and blue? Wow. Oh, Elizabeth, I love this hypothesis. The color red is feeling a bit blue today. Yes, I remember there was 1 or 2 people who was feeling moody at the beginning of our story. Oh, Regina, he got tired of always coloring in red and decided to become blue. Would you like to find out why my red crayon is feeling a bit blue today? Well, let's start our story then. Now, as we look at our red crayon, I'm going to ask you for a little favor. Can you please pay attention to the way that the red crayon is feeling today? And can we type in some comments in the chat box to make red crayon feel absolutely great? So could you start off by typing in the chat box what you usually tell people when they do something that's absolutely fantastic? What kind of feedback do you give them? Carla, this book is exactly like The Color Monsters, but it's super cool too. Have a look and see. Oh, Isabel thinks that this might be a story about differences. Isabel, could you be right? I guess we'll have to hear the story to find out. Right, Sonia is saying that when somebody does something that's cool, she says, great. Manuelita is saying that she says, amazing, right? Right, the feedback that I might give is something like, you're brilliant, or great job, or well done, right? So this might be feedback that I use. Anna is saying that she uses nice work. And Maria Inez says, keep up the good work. Now, can you help me think of something that we could say when somebody tries something, but they don't get it right first time round? So it's a little bit of a boo-boo. What could we say then? They did try, but I mean, it wasn't amazing. It was a little bit of a boo-boo. What might we say then? Oh, I wonder, what could we say that won't make them feel sad, but will give them an incentive to keep going? Can anybody think of anything? Oh, Maria João, that's a good one. Try again. Oh, Inez, I love this one. You're almost there. Keep going. Try a little harder. Yes, Paula, try again. Vera is saying. Nice effort, Teresa, but keep going. Oh, Sarah, I love this let's. Let's try again. In other words, we're in this together. Would you like to have a look at my comments? Right, don't give up. Anna is saying, keep going. You've got this. Oh, I think you're mind readers because I've also chosen try again. And I've also included another one, which is would you like? And when I use this one, I usually suggest the next thing that they can do. Would you like me to read you the instructions? Would you like to think of ideas together? Would you like to talk me through this so I understand? And then I've used the let's one, so you can see Alshander's also got a wonderful let's one. Let's do it again. And I've said, let's do it together. So perhaps, Alshander, we could combine let's do it together again. Oh, right. I think that would make it absolutely perfect. Let's be happy. I like that one too. Now, what could we tell people when they try and they try and they try, but it is a little bit of a desgraça because they're feeling blue and having a blue day? What could we tell them to give them one reason to try one more time? Can you think of anything? So it's not that the person hasn't tried. The person has tried, but they're just having a desgraça day. What could we say? Try harder next time. Anna, that only works if they didn't try, right? Oh, Celia, I love this one. Don't give up. Keep going. Try harder, Anna's saying. Susanna, I love this one. You can do it. Don't give up. You're almost there, says Sonia. I love that one. That one. Try harder, it's not so good, don't worry, next time it will be better, Vanya is saying. Oh, Vanya, I love this one. You can be a burger. That's a lovely one. Pedro is saying, don't give up. All good advice. I sometimes say, well, this isn't going so well, so let's have a timeout. Let's stop and think of a plan together. What can we do to make sure that this is going to go better next time? And then after this, we think about you can statements. So now that we have our plan, you can try repeating the word, or you can try writing it in the air, or you can try saying it out loud, whatever it is, right? Okay, so now don't forget this positive feedback for Red as you see Red's day. Don't forget to type in the chat box, okay? Right, so let's start our story. He was red. Red. Point, point, point to something red. Point, point, point to something red. Can you look around you and point to something red? That's it, red. If nothing else, the red crayon on the page. He was red. Oh, red. Can you name some objects that are typically red? Let's see if we can get 5 before 10 seconds are up. Would you like to type in the chat box what typically red objects we can find? Let's have a look. Now, of course, if I were in the classroom, the students or the children would be shouting this out. But seeing that you can't do this or the whole of the internet will come crumbling down, can I ask you to type in the chat box? So we have a red heart, a red tomato, a red apple, that's 3, a red strawberry. Oh, 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 what am I thinking of? A red cherry, that works too, Sonia, well done. But I'm thinking of something else. Oh, Regina, peppers. Peppers are red as well, that's true. A rose, Anna is saying, a strawberry, a tomato. And what about my ho, ho, ho little clue? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Who do you think that might be? Santa Claus, Sel. Of course, Santa Claus and his red fatinu, right? So we're going to start off by getting the children to activate vocabulary that they already know. let's go back to our story. He was red, but he wasn't very good at it. Oh dear, says Olive. Oh, can you see Olive on the screen? Can you point to Olive? Yeah, that's right. Oh dear, Olive is saying. Who do you think Olive might be? How does Red know Olive? What kind of relationship do they have? So Sylvia is saying that Olive might be a pen. Okay. Who might Olive be? How does Red know Olive? Oh, Isabel is saying that she might be the Red Cross on the first aid box. That's a very creative answer. Sonia is saying that she might be a crayon. Yeah, but what kind of crayon? Anna, this book you can find on YouTube, and any of the books that I suggest, I always make sure that they're there. Oh, a friend, Fernanda's saying. A box. Let me just go back to Anna. Anna, then I'll be sharing the PowerPoint with you. So you will have the ebook in my PowerPoint to do with as you like. Okay? Or perhaps a fellow companion. Okay. Now, Olive said, oh dear, how do you think that this makes Red feel? Oh dear, she said, how do you think that Red is feeling? Oh yes, Anna, she might be the brother or the sister, right? Oh dear, how would Red be feeling with this? Well, perhaps not so very happy. His teacher thought that he needed more practice. Red, listen up. Red, I'll draw a strawberry. Strawberry. Okay, Red, I'll draw a red strawberry. And then, Red, you draw the strawberry. You can do this really, Red. I have faith in you. You can do this. How do you think that Red is feeling now? His teachers just said that all he needs is a little more practice, right? She'll draw the strawberry first, and then Red will draw the strawberry. How do you think that Red is feeling? Oh, Clara, I agree with you. Just a little worried and a little anxious. So, shall we help Red draw? Are you ready? Let's draw in the air. So, let's start off with the stem of the strawberry. You ready? Come on, let me see you drawing. That's it. Well done. You too, Pedro and Anna. Yeah, that's right. So a nice green stem. And now are you ready to draw that beautiful red, juicy strawberry? Well done. Oh, Vanna's saying it might be a blue strawberry. Let's check and see if Vanna's right. So the teacher drew one red strawberry, two red strawberries, three red strawberries, four red strawberries, five red strawberries. But Blue couldn't really. And he said, like this one, miss? Oh dear. Look at his collagen Scarlet say, oh my! Let's try again. Ooh, how do you think that Red is feeling now? Look at those strawberries. I think they're pretty cool strawberries. I mean, you could see that they're strawberries, right? How do you think that Red is feeling? Do you think he's happy? Do you think that he is sort of worried or anxious? Or do you think he's feeling just a little bit sad? Oh, Philippa's saying he's feeling frustrated. I could see where you've got that. Venna's made an excellent suggestion. Why worry about strawberries when we can draw blueberries? Okay. Now, Do you remember feeling like Red is feeling now? A little bit sad and a little bit frustrated and perhaps a little bit disappointed and anxious too. And now this would be the perfect time to have a timeout and to deal with the students' feelings and to deal with their emotions and to speak to them about how we can react when we have negative emotions. So, because we are feeling down, does that give us the right to make everybody else feel miserable? How can we deal with these kind of emotions? And Annabelle is saying that she's felt like this many, many times. Annabella, you're not alone. So have I. All right. Oh, well, let's move on. Let's see what happens now. Well, his mother thought that all he needed was just a little company. So she said, Red, why don't you go out and why don't you draw a big red orange with yellow? And Yellow said, yes, that's a great idea. We can draw a really big orange. And Red says, uh-huh. A really big orange. Okay. How do you think Red is feeling? His mum thinks all he needs is a bit of company. Oh, Isabel, I love this answer. Perhaps he's feeling very special because he's colorblind. I love this optimistic way of looking at it. That's a really good idea. Oh, Sandra thinks that he might be feeling a bit nervous, and Inês is saying that he might be feeling a little bit anxious. Okay, so if that's true, Sandra and Inês, what can we tell Red to do so that he doesn't feel as anxious? Could you type in the chat box what you think that we can tell Red to do? He's feeling a bit anxious. Pedro's saying he's feeling a bit scared. Is there anything that we can say to give him a little bit of confidence? What might we say? Let me think. As I'm thinking, can you type in some suggestions in the chat box? Yeah, oh, poor Red is feeling a bit worried and a bit anxious and very scared. So perhaps we can say let's, or Elder, you can do it. Yes, you can. If you can't do it, no one can. Are you ready to chant with me? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. You can do it. Yes, you can. If you can't do it, no one can. Let's work together. Cheer up. I'm here with you. Oh, Sandra, I love this one. I can help you, Red. Don't worry. You're not alone. Sandra, you're a mind reader. So the two colors got together and they drew a really big orange. Can you grab your pencil or your crayon and draw with me on the count of 3? A really big, come on, a little bit bigger, really big orange. Uh-oh, look, they made a bit of a big greenish one. And look at Yellow's reaction. Yuck, he says. A green orange? That's not tasty at all. Oh dear, look at Red. He just says, oops. Oh dear, this isn't looking good. Fernanda's saying it's green. How's Red going to react? How do you think that Red feels after making such an effort to draw such a big orange and all he gets is a yuck from Yellow crayon? How do you think he feels? Hmm. Alshanda, this is a good thing to tell him. Don't worry, Red, because green is all about hope. Oh, I love that. Carl is saying that too. Oh, Fernanda's saying, don't worry, it'll be orange someday. Vanya's saying, don't worry, I believe in you. Oh, yes, I think he feels very disappointed and frustrated with this nasty little comment. Well, let's continue with our story. Red's grandparents thought that the problem was that he wasn't warm enough. Red, your class is going to have Portraits Day, but Red, don't worry. You can put on this lovely red scarf and you will look absolutely fantastic, right? Silver and grey are Red's parents. How do we know that Silver and Grey are Red's parents? Can you please put on your critical thinking glasses, take a very close look and see if there's any little pista that shows us that Silver and Grey are Red's parents? When you find that magic pista, can you type in the chat box? How do we know that they're the grandparents? Look there, red is in the middle. And on the one side, we have Mr. Silver, and on the right, we have Miss Grey. How do we know that these are the grandparents? Oh, can you see a pista? Silver's holding out the scarf, right? Oh, Mafalda, Fernanda, that's a very good comment there. Oh, yes, their size. And Sylvia and Regina are saying that they have grey hair. And grandparents usually have grey hair. Oh, good Lord. Look at this. Peter is saying that there's no paper in the middle, so that they've used all this up. Oh, have I told you that you guys make great detectives? Well done, they're all alike, so they must belong to the same family. And the story goes on. So we made the portrait, but the scarf didn't help Red. He still looked very, very blue. Now have a look at the wonderful colors on the page. This is an absolutely fantastic opportunity to start speaking about different kinds of colors. So there is green, but there's also teal, as you can see on the screen. And there is red, but there's also crimson. And there is purple, but there's also violet. So this is a fantastic opportunity to expand the color wheel and the color palettes and to speak about different colors. Now, have a look at all of these colors. They're looking fantastic, but red is still looking very blue. Oh dear, what could we say? So what do you think is the best portrait on the screen? And what makes you say that? Are excellent critical thinking questions to ask the students. Now, of course, when we ask critical thinking questions, we need to go into L1 because the kids don't have enough English to be able to express their thoughts, okay? So, oh, Annabelle is saying there's no red there. Yes, but which portrait, Annabella, do you think is the best one? Philippa's saying that she thinks the best one is blue. But now it's not enough to have the students answer. We need to examine why that's the best answer. Okay, well, the colors continued to voice their opinions about red. And oh, good Lord, have a look at Amber. Amber said, sometimes I wonder if he's really red at all. And have a look at Hazelnut. Hazelnut is saying, Don't be silly, Amber. It says red on his little label. Oh dear. Look at Cocoa Bean. He came that way from the factory. Oh, look at Fuchsia. Frankly, I don't think he's very bright. Oh dear. Look at Purple. Well, I think he's lazy. He's a lazy crayon. That's why he's always blue. Lazy red crayon. Green says, right. He's got to press harder. If he presses harder, it'll come out red. Grey agrees. He really has to apply himself. And Lime says, well, give him time. He'll catch on. All he needs is a little bit of time. Oh dear. How do you think that these comments from all these colleguinhas make him feel? And is there anything that we could say instead of these comments? Anything that we could tell Red to make sure that he doesn't give up? Well, you've already made some pretty good comments today. So perhaps we could say things like, Red, keep going. Don't give up. You'll get there. Or any comments like this. And now we can have a time out and examine this with the children. Right, let's continue with our story. Oh, Vanya's saying he thinks that it isn't his problem. And Sonia's saying, don't worry, you'll get there. But Sonia, he didn't catch on. Have a look. Green drew a fantastic green frog. Grok, grok. And Black drew an amazing black sheep. Meh, meh. And Brown drew a wonderful brown cow. Moo, moo. And Red drew a red ark. What's that? Now, instead of saying ark, could we think of another word that we could say? Perhaps red ant? Oh dear, I'm sorry, I've just gone and clicked on the wrong place here in my PowerPoint as I was getting so excited by telling you the story today. Hang with me while I get back there. And I'm going to ask you to think about that word. Instead of saying red uck, is there anything else that we could say? Red what? Oh, Teresa is saying red wow. Okay. Regina thinks that this is an interesting story, Regina. So do I. Can you think of anything else that we could say instead of that red? I'm sorry, I have to click quite slowly or I might just make the internet become a little bit impancado, right? Yeah, you know, clicking, sometimes you get very exciting. Oh, Teresa is saying that we could say red, amazing. Oh, that's a good comment. I like that. Red, this is amazing. Oh, Sonia, what? Anu Ima. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Raquel is saying really, really great. Okay. Well, have a look at this little picture. This is a picture of an... That's it. Ant. Oh, red, bluish ant. Very imaginative. Now, all the other objects were very, very worried. And so what could they possibly say to make sure that red would be okay? Well, the scissor says, well, perhaps he's just a little bit stiff. Perhaps I'll give him a snip. And the masking tape said, well, perhaps he just needs a little bit of tape so that I can stick his label together. And the sharpener said, no, 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 objects. That's not it. I know his problem. He's a little bit blunt. All I need to do is to sharpen him a little bit. Red, hold still. I'm going to sharpen you. Children, can you help me sharpen red? Grab your sharpener, put it on top of red. Let's sharpen red. Well done. You look very cool now. And now we could ask, what could we do to help? Might this be enough to sharpen red? Might this be the solution? Is there anything else we can do? And then go into a conversation like that. Oh dear. But even with all our help and all his hard work, red was still blue. He drew blue hearts. Would you like to draw a blue heart with me? That's it, blue hearts. And blue cherries. That's it. And even blue foxes. Let's draw his eyes and his nose and now his body and legs. And he also drew blue toes. And now if I wanted to, I could count the amount of toes to revise the numbers. But he just couldn't get the hang of it. Oops. Red is looking a little frustrated. Children, how do we know that Red is feeling frustrated? Can anybody help? Put on your critical glasses. Have a good look. How do we know that Red is feeling a bit down in the dumps? Maybe Inez is saying Red needs to feel and accept the fact that he's blue. Oh, America, what a good idea. We could just change the label from red to blue. Cecilia's saying that blue is such a wonderful, positive color. Gladys saying, don't run away, don't run away. Okay, well, let's keep going. One day, Red met a new friend. Let's say hello to Red's new friend. Hello, Berry. Berry's having a very nice day. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. And Berry says, Red, will you make a blue ocean for my boat? And Red said, well, why are friends important? Can you think of a reason why friends might be very important? Why might Berry be very important for Blue? Oh, Vanya's saying, forget the label and be yourself. Vanya, good advice. Why might friends be important? Would you type in the chat box? What do you think that they might do? How can Berry help Blue? Sometimes a friendly shoulder. And Annabelle is right. And so is Pedro. Friends help us when they need them. So let's see if Blue could be a good friend and help Berry. So Blue said, Berry, I can't do it. And Berry said, deep breaths. Come on, breathe in with me. In and out. Blue, will you try, please, Blue? This is very important to me. Please, Blue, will you try? And yeah, guess what Blue said? I don't know. How can I be a good friend, Berry? How can I be a good friend to you? And Berry said, Blue, all you need to do is try. If you try your best, you'll be a good friend. So guess what? He did. He tried and he made some beautiful waves. And Berry said, Blue, that's amazing. That's perfect. And Red couldn't believe it. He said, you're welcome. Guess what, Berry? This was easy peasy lemon squeezy. And Blue, or Red, was so excited that he didn't stop there. He drew red bluebells and blue jeans and a blue bird and blueberries and a big blue whale. Wow! Blue! Blue! I'm blue! It seems that Blue followed your advice and forgot the labels. So Blue can draw blue objects really well. How about you? What do you do that you can do very, very well? Could you type in the chat box? Well, I can make a wonderful cheesecake for those of you who know me. What can you do very, very well? Would you type in the chat box? Have a look. I totally agree with Celia. Blue can draw aquatic animals wonderfully. But what can you do that you do very well? Think about this. For me, it's making cheesecake. I make a really wicked cheesecake. Teresa makes a wonderful chicken curry. Imaginada. Teresa, it's getting to the time where I would eat your wonderful chicken curry. Mafalda, don't even tell me that you make a wonderful boule de bolacha because I have a very greedy tooth for boule de bolacha. Fernanda, pancakes. Oh, Katerina can cook really well. This is making me hungry. So we'd better get back to our story. Oh, the colors were amazed. Oh, who would have known that he was blue, said Amber. I always had the feeling he was blue, said Hazelnut. Oh, what an amazing color. I am, well, convinced. I mean, wasn't it obvious? He was blue. He can draw a really good blue ocean. Said Berry. All he needed was a hug, said Sea Green. And so the colours continued making their comments. How do you think that red, or should I say blue, is feeling now? What's changed, right? What's changed? Well, it's all about the way that you look at things, isn't it? If you keep on wanting to be red when you're clearly blue, things might get a little complicated. But if you accept and embrace who you are, then you will be really blue and happy. And guess what? Blue was really happy to draw the biggest sky he could ever draw. Glory, glory, this is the end of our story today. Would you type in the chat box whether you enjoyed Red's story? Sally, did you see that wonderful sky? It is, you're right. It's all about being who you are, no matter what, and leaning on your friends for a little support. Now, I think you'll agree with me that this story is absolutely delicious. And we'll now be moving on to the third part of our webinar, which is really to think about some post-storytelling activities that we could do with the children to make the story live on in their minds long after they've heard, glory, glory, this is the end of the story. So I've chosen a few favorites for you. My first suggestion is to make a little bit of a finger puppet. And why am I suggesting a finger puppet? Well, it's a great little tool to get the students to then retell the story. And I think that you'll agree with me that there are always some meninos that are a little bit shy when they have to tell the story themselves. But when they are telling the story with the help of a finger puppet, it changes everything for them, right? Oh, and once they can tell the story, then we might move on to doing this little fichinha that I've prepared for you. So it's a fichinha to help them remember the different parts of the story. And it's got the beginning, and then in the middle column, who tries to help, and then in the end, what happens. Now, if you feel that your students are a little bit weak, or if you have students that are sort of mixed ability and you need medidas universais, then you can substitute this with pictures. And what I usually do is just photocopy the little bits of the book, and then they can stick the bits in the graph and they can make their graphic organizer. So this is a lovely way to scaffold telling the story if they need that help. I see that Anna also has students who love finger puppets. Now, my students love playing games. Do your children love playing games too? If so, you can type in the chat box. And so I'm always on the lookout for a good game. And one of my favorites are actually, these simple games that the kids know immediately and that they start playing immediately and practicing their English. Anna, don't worry. I will share all these materials with you. You will get an email from the editora pretty soon with all of these so that you can do them with the students. Now, one of the activities that I like doing is just making little flashcards, and the students can now take the crayon to color in the objects. So what color would broccoli be? And then they can just decide whether they want to have green broccoli or whether they want to have creative broccoli. And once they finish coloring this, I ask them to cut out the flashcards, and then we play a memory game. You know, when you turn over the cards and they have to turn over one, remember the object, and then look for the card. And once they've got them, they can go snap and keep the cards. And then after that, you can also use them to play a bingo game. And I think we all love bingo. I'm a huge fan of the game. Yes, Salia, it's a wonderful memory game. So memory games are fantastic and they work really well with the students. If you want to take things on to a different level, perhaps you could try an art experiment. And so you can bring in paints into the classroom and the students can actually mix the paints together. If you don't want to do gouaches because they're a bit messy, you can do aguarelas, watercolors. They work really, really well. And I think you'll agree with me that children love hands-on activities and these kind of experiments. If we tell them that they're going to be artists or little color scientists, they get very, very excited. And afterwards, you can round off their discoveries with a fichinha like this, in which they discover what happens when you mix the primary colors, right? Right, my last suggestion for today, and I'm sorry to say my last suggestion, but time flies by when I'm with you, is perhaps to go back to the beginning of our webinar and to make an emotions book. So I've made books like this with the students in which they say, I'm a girl or I'm a boy, and sometimes I feel. And they start off the day by telling me their feelings, and then we choose 2 or 3 emotion books and discuss those emotions, and then give each other advice on what we can do when we're feeling a little sad. And my secret is, when I'm feeling a little sad, I eat just a dentadinha of chocolate. Because a dentadinha of chocolate reminds me of how sweet life is. So I try to eat a little bit of chocolate every day to keep me sweet and excited about what's going to happen the next day. Now, these little emotion diary books are excellent for me to sort of see if children are having trouble and then to call in their parents so that we can, solve problems together. I see that Alexandra loves lots of dentadinhas of chocolate, and so does Celia. I think that you can never eat enough chocolate. I don't know about you. So these are some simple suggestions that you can take into your classroom to make Red live on long after you finish telling the story. And so this brings me to the end of the 3rd objective. And you know what I'm going to say next, don't you? Oh, you thought I was going to say glory, glory. But before we do that, can we go back to the way that we are feeling? So some of us were feeling a little tired at the beginning of the webinar. It had been a long day. We taught lots of meninos and they always make a lot of noise. How are you feeling now that we've spent an hour together? Would you like to type in the chat box? Vera is saying, excellent. Philippa, I could give you a hug now. Philippa's saying that I was her little dentadine of chocolate. So I'm assuming, Philippa, that you're feeling very, very happy. Chocolate makes me feel very, very happy. Oh, Anna is thinking of Easter almonds. And my father's saying that she's feeling excited. Sally is feeling enthusiastic. Elizabeth is feeling inspired to go into the classroom and tell this story. So this means that I can let you go off and make yourself a good cup of tea and promise to send you the story so you can tell it to your students. Is that a deal? Now you know what I'm going to say next. A child who reads will be an adult who thinks. Hold on to that thought and make sure that you read to the children and make sure that they read as well. Because this is the difference between a good child and an excellent student. So on that note, I'm going to say, glory, glory, this is the end of my story. Thank you so much for having come to today's webinar. It's been an absolute pleasure to have been with you. A big, big, big thank you from Claudia and I to the Editore for making this possible. It's been 4 great webinars. Pedro, thank you so much for having come. I noticed that you came to all 4. You're my shiny star today. It's been absolutely fantastic to see you all. Please keep an eye out on your email so that you can get these materials. And on this note, I'm going to love you and leave you and say goodbye from Porto. Keep safe, and I hope to see you soon, because Claudia and I have a baby that is sure going to change what happens in your classroom. I'm hoping that you are curious to see the baby and will join us in about 3 weeks. And I cannot tell you anymore because it's top secret. But I can tell you that teaching English is going to be easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Bye for now. Thank you so much for having come. Bye-bye, everyone. Beijinho. Bye.